from the comfort of your home or laboratory, which can help in determining better clinical outcomes. So the 8 modules are these, you know about them. We started with the introductions, a peek into laboratory processes. Then we went into deep into the laboratory processes and the errors. Then we learned about safety and stress. Last week we did a lot of yoga also. This week we are talking about quality management system. Next week again that topic will continue, but we'll talk about Lean Six Sigma. Then module 6 will be on effective communication skills for better patient management. Then module 7 will be on quality essentials, the 12 quality essentials in detail. And then we will have module 8, which will be on lab accreditation, introduction to it as per the ISO 15189 guidelines. So at the end of the session, obviously, you will have to do this assessment, which is compulsory, and you'll have to submit it because you will get scores for that, and you have to get 60% marks. This is important that you submit it. The team from Ortho and QAI include obviously Reshma, who is the host and timekeeper. Then we have myself, and then we have Dr. Charmiraj, Dr. Anita, and from the QAI team, we have Dr. Rana and Rehma. So this is the team. I will just repeat the ground rules. As I said, every Saturday, please join 10 months before time. Suggestion by Dr. Ratan is to give additional marks for that. So we have noted that. So we'll have 2 sessions by 2 experts whom I will introduce very shortly. Then we will have interactions, Q&A, and in the end, 10 minutes of assessment. We will remain muted so that there is no disturbance. But if you need to ask any questions, you can put it in the chat box or unmute and ask. Please attend full sessions as far as possible. Don't get into phone calls or other activities during the session. So this 105 minutes is for yourself. So please make the most of it. We will keep the medium of communication English. I saw last time some people talking in Hindi, etc. Avoid that because it's a mixed group of people from India and outside India. But if you need to later clarify something in your local or regional language, you can reach out to the ortho team separately because we have team members speaking all languages. So you can reach out to us separately. So assessment, you have to submit online 100%. In case you are not able to do that, reach out to us separately. And every interaction that you do, every question that you ask, you'll get extra points over and above the assessment scores. And the key to learning here is ask, and don't shy away. Because if you shy away, it means that, there is something that you wanted to learn and that learning did not happen. So don't feel shy. Now I'll also tell you how to do the assessment. We will be putting a link in the chat box. You will have to click on the link and write your name. Write your full name. If my name is Lakshmi, I have to write Lakshmi Ramachandran. If you put quality as your name, or if you don't put your name, you cannot identify yourself, then we cannot identify whose paper it is. So you have to identify yourself with your full name. Now this is the way you will get a question. There will be 10 questions. So I've just put a funny question. What is the other name for Rajnikant? You have to click on the right option. Is it Talaivar, Superstar, Chitti, all of the above? Click on any one of the option. In a similar way, you will have to respond to 10 questions. In the end, you will have to say submit, and you can also see your scores. So that is how you go about. The only webinar tools that are important for you are the mute unmute button, the start stop video. You can keep your videos on because we would also like to see you unless you have internet connectivity issues, and the chat box. You can please keep putting your questions in the chat box and ask questions throughout, So that is very, very important. Okay. And as I said, the top 3 winners. So let's have a healthy competition, for the gold, silver and the bronze awards. Now let me introduce you all to the speakers today. So we have 91 participants as of now. First and foremost, Dr. Professor Ashok Ratan, okay, MD, MAMS, Commonwealth Fellow, INSA, DFG Fellow, WHO Temporary Advisor, CRO, WHO Lab Director. So look at Sir's qualifications, look at Sir's seniority, and he was there from 5:15, you know. So this is a lesson that we have to learn from sir, and be on time. Very important. Anywhere, anything you do, be on time. Exactly the same thing applies to patient reports. If you don't give the report sometime, patient is not going to be happy. So being on time is very important. That's an important lesson we learned from sir today. And so let's follow that. Now I want to introduce, I will take 2 minutes on this, to talk about Professor Ashok Ratan. He is a medical microbiologist by profession, but you see, sir's achievement, he has been conferred the APJ Abdul Kalam Award for lifetime contribution to medical sciences in 2018. I hope everybody knows who was APJ Abdul Kalam. He was the president of India. Unfortunately, he is no more, but he was one of the most respected presidents of India. Sir also has got the Srinivas Oration in 2021, awarded by Indian Association of Microbiologists for his contribution to laboratory diagnosis of tuberculosis. Currently, Sir is the advisor in Pathkind Laboratories in Gurugram. Gurugram is Gurgaon in North India. Very briefly about Sir, has held important positions in academics in All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi as assistant professor, then in JN Medical College, Aligarh as demonstrator and lecturer, then with Mahatma Gandhi Medical University, Jaipur as professor and head of department, also with Hamdard Institute of Medical Sciences and Research in New Delhi as professor. Sir was also with Sharjah Medical College, UAE as a visiting professor. He has been in Industrial Research, Ranbaxy, and also in Fortis Clinical Research Limited. Sir was in diagnostic labs of SRL Religare, earlier also with Star Metropolis as medical director and COO, and currently with Pathkind Labs as advisor. He has been with tertiary care hospitals as well, like JN Medical College, AIMS, Medanta the Medicity, where he was a chairman of laboratory medicine. He has also been associated with public health like CAREC, PHO, WHO as medical microbiologist and lab director. Also has been with public health technology, transfer of PHFI consultant. Sir has over 100 research papers, you know. He has guided over 40 students for their MD, MS, PhD. And Sir is also named in 30 international patents. Sir is also the author of NBT-sponsored book published by Churchill Livingston, Antimicrobials in Laboratory Medicine in 2000. He has contributed more than a dozen chapters in different books. Sir has conducted various educational workshops, programs, CMEs, and today's program is one such session. And don't think that Sir is only into academics or teaching and only lab, etc. While he was in college, he also captained the university cricket and lawn tennis teams. So look at his achievements. There is so much that one can learn only looking at his CV. You know, to read out this CV only, you know, it took me some time. So thank you so much, sir. It's really an honor to have you. And I've known sir for a long time. So it's really a pleasure. And thank you so much for being there. I will now also introduce our second speaker for today, Dr. Aditi Gupta. She is the lead consultant of biochemistry department with Aster Labs, Bengaluru. Also the head of the department for biochemistry at Aster Labs. We have known Dr. Aditi for some time. When she was associated with Medanta the Medicity. Dr. Aditi has over 15 years of experience in medical field with extensive experience in diagnostic labs, training and mentoring MBBS, BDS and medical technology students. Also has got expertise in quality assurance and project management. Dr. Aditi has successfully organized various conferences and CMEs. She has assisted in successful installation of track engine at Medanta, which is total lab automation, you know, full track, which you can sometime go and see if you go to Gurgaon anytime. Dr. Aditi is also an NABL assessor, NABH assessor, trained in Six Sigma, Green Belt. She has completed her clinical lab management course from IIM Ahmedabad. We were just talking about it. Currently, Dr. Aditi works with Aster Labs, which is an entity of Aster DM Healthcare, which is a very leading group in South India. And also, I think they have good presence abroad. She is also a lead consultant for biochemistry department at Aster Labs, heading the biochemistry section. and she started the lab with advanced automation. She has also set up other specialized sections of the lab like newborn screening, LCMS, electrophoresis, and also handling the lab administrative responsibilities. So I welcome Dr. Aditi Gupta. It's a pleasure to have Dr. Aditi. Yeah, we have known her for a long
Thank you.
time, so it's really a great pleasure. So, so as I finish the introductions, now we have 102 participants, okay, which is very good. And we will now hand over to Dr. Ashok Ratan to start the session. And Reshma, you can give Sir the sharing rights. And we note the time, which is 5:42 p.m. Yes. Welcome to both our speakers. Reshma, you can hand over.
Yes, presenter now.
Dr. Ratan, you can present your slides. Yeah. You can share your slides.
Lakshmi,
Okay.
we can see your slides on the.
You can see my slides. Can you see my slides?
No, sir. You're yet to start.
I think Lakshmi, you have to stop sharing,
I've already done that.
but still we could able to see your slide.
Okay, I'll just leave the event and join. Yeah, now you can. Yeah.
Now we are able to see Dr. Ashok Ratan. Yeah. Doctor, we could able to see your slide now.
Yeah, all right. So thank you very much for the introduction. Let's start. So today's topic is about quality management system. We should begin by saying, what is quality? Quality is difficult to define, but when it is invisible when good, it's impossible to ignore when bad. It's been suggested that quality may be defined as doing the right thing right the first time, every time. But it's also been suggested that it is meeting and exceeding expectations as laid out by standards. The standards that apply to medical lab is given in ISO 15189-2012, which has management requirements and technical requirements. And as you will see here, management requirements are more than even technical requirements. The benefits of accreditation are plenty. And the first one is that it will assure technical competence. It will reduce the risk. Staff confidence will increase. It will improve communication within the lab and outside the lab. It is also a symbol of international recognition. Accreditation leads to peer review of laboratory operations. It also demonstrates a commitment to quality and accountability. The biggest benefit of accreditation is it improves continuous improvement. It gives a different perspective from the experts who come in, and you can volunteer as an assessor too. For an optimal laboratory system, what you need initially are facilities, equipment, people who are given the right methods. Along with that, you provide them SOPs and training on SOPs, make them use quality control, and provide them management supervision. Along with that, that should be external assessment, remedial action, and most important, strategic planning. So you're telling them where to go and how to go. In the diagnostic cycle, you have that person, the consultant thinks a test needs to be ordered, and he orders the test. So sample collection, test ordering, sample collection, and transportation to the lab constitutes the pre-analytical or pre-examination phase. Then you have the sample accessioning and analysis, that is the analytic phase. Finally, you have the reporting of results and its interpretation, that is post-analytical. But has the right test been ordered? And are there errors between results received and action? That normally is not captured. What test to order actually means pre-analytical phase, and what action to take once the results are available with you constitute the post-analytical phase. So instead of 3 phases which were traditional, now we know that there are 5 phases. Most of the time, people will concentrate on getting the test done. But for tests to be done, it is essential that the 12 quality system essentials are in place, because they are the pillars on which the work is based. Without having the 12 quality systems in place, your lab is like a house of cards. Once you have 12 quality systems in place, you ensure that there's reduction or elimination of medical error. Likelihood to meet customer satisfaction increases, so you will retain your customers. Potential for successfully meeting accreditation standards and assessment, and sustained attainment of quality objectives will result once you have 12 quality systems in place. The first thing we must realize is that all of us can make mistakes. In fact, a study in America in 1990 reported that lab errors result in 44,000 to 98,000 deaths per year, which is the 8th leading cause of death. More deaths than motor vehicle accidents, deaths due to breast cancer or AIDS. Laboratory errors were of various types. 50% of areas were failure to use the indicated test. 32 were also failure to act on results when the tests are available. And then 55% involved delay in diagnosis because of the tests that are being done. That is equivalent to one fully loaded jumbo jet crashing and killing all occupants every day. Normally, our strategy for addressing the problem is to name a person, to blame the person, and to shame him, and to remove the bad apple. But Deming had already indicated by a red bead experiment that if the red beads constitute mistakes in a series of processes which are white beads, and you give a spatula to anybody, he will not be able to pick up only white beads. That would mean that if there are mistakes in the system, nobody, no matter how dedicated he is, he will still not be able to do a flawless operations. That medical error is a failure of process is fundamental to setting the system right. A process means there is input, something will be done, and an output will result. Now, whenever a mistake occurs, it is the person holding the gun who's put at fault. But it may be, so he has the sharp end of the model. But it's the decisions which are taken by the administration which might be the reasons why the accident occurs. Whenever you have situations where the accident will lead to severe consequences, the best approach is to put multiple layers of controls so that there's multiple barriers between the trigger and the target. And this approach is known as Swiss cheese model of error prevention. Now, what kind of error prevention would you tolerate? Would 1% error be acceptable? And would 99% would be fine? If you accept 1% error, it would mean that hotels in NCR can serve 600,000 lunches of contaminated food every day. Postmen can lose 50,000 parcels every day. Midwife can drop 22 newborn babies each day, etc., etc. So we have to aim for doing the right thing right every time from the first time. And that is possible if you understand and implement the 12 systems essential, quality systems essential. Now you understand that QMS is a system designed to manage the continuous improvement in process in an organization in order to meet customers' expectations. And customers' expectations are results which are both reproducible and accurate. Quality management is also defined as coordinated activities to direct and control an organization with regards to quality. And all aspects of laboratory operations need to be addressed to assure quality. This constitutes the quality management system. There are 4 elements to quality management system. One is management responsibility. Second is resource allocation and management. Then third is service realization. And fourth is measurement analysis leading to continuous improvement in the system. So let's deal with each one of them in detail. Management responsibility is the management support is critical to success of QMS. Management is responsible for strategic planning of a business and for making quality as one of the strategic goals for the lab. Creation of a quality policy, which includes commitment to quality, is one of the most important steps. Evaluating the success of quality management system and areas that need to be improved, ensuring customer requirements are both understood and met are the responsibilities of the management. To do that, resources are allocated and managed. Top management must also ensure organization has enough staff to effectively carry out that strategy. Staffs are provided with tools, supplies, and resources to carry out their jobs, which includes suitable work environment and laboratory equipment from reliable suppliers. Service realization, which is interrelated activities which takes from sample collection to report generation, is one of the most important activity of the lab. Staff understands proper processes and procedures and how they are related and how they need to be followed every time. And that is why standard operating procedures must be written and made available at wherever activity takes place. Labs must document each step. Controlling access to these documents is key to ensure staff is always viewing the latest version and not an old version. Finally, measurement analysis and improvement. Fourth aspect is the measurement, analysis, and improvement. A major goal of quality management system is continual improvement. Achieved by measuring and analyzing performance of quality management systems and then acting on those findings, determine which metrics to measure based on strategies of the organization. This process is repeated at regular interval. So taking management responsibilities in detail without commitment from the top management of an organization, quality management system cannot succeed. In fact, you will not be able to get your lab accredited if your CEO, director, or whoever is the top person in your organization has not bought the idea of quality management system. Management must take responsibility for establishing the quality policy, establishing the process, allocating resources to meet those goals. Quality policy is created with customers' requirement in mind, must help organization reach its strategic goal, serve customer needs, comply with all the regulatory requirements. Management commitment to QMS must be ongoing, not one-off. Measuring and analyzing success of quality management system, acting upon the finding, and continuously improving quality is what management must oversee and be responsible for. Quality manager is a key person, and it must be clear that lab manager and quality manager should be two different persons. Quality manager is the representative of the management. Quality policies are enunciated in quality manual. It is the backbone of quality management systems. It is the framework on which quality management system is founded. It's the responsibility of top management to lead creation of quality policy, aligned with organization goals and purposes. Quality policy is not a static document, must evaluate the effectiveness of its quality objectives and continuously improve quality management system. Must comply with all statutory and industry requirement, must be communicated to and understood by all staff members. So all staff members must read the quality manual. For medical laboratory requirements, the requirements are spelled out in clause 4.2.3, which deals with scope of services, statement of lab standards of practice, objectives of QMS, requirement that personnel understand and comply with QMS, commitment to good practice and quality, and commitment to comply with ISO 15189. Strategic planning is also very critical, and this is one of the responsibilities of the management. Documentation is the key to implementation of QMS. In a way, it says, say what you do what you say, and document both. Say what you do what you say, and document both. Quality manual is the roadmap to quality management system. It mentions the processes and procedures to follow, make sure that understand and follow them, know where to find them, and quality manual controls them. Why control the document? The documents must be controlled so that only the most recent document is available. Distributing list of where they would be found is available. All old documents must be withdrawn, labeled, filed, or destroyed. From documentation is key to quality management implementation. Quality manual is on top, from where policies and document processes and procedures will emerge, and then from there You will have standard operating procedures of doing the work. As a consequence, forms, lists, tables, reports, etc. will be generated, and all these must be controlled. So there will be policies. From policies, you will devise processes, and from processes you would have procedures, and finally records. And detailed documentation for each one of them, and detailed responsibility matrix is fixed for each one of them. Common mistakes with documentation is organizations commonly document only technical procedures, but not management activities such as training and orientation of new staff or testing the competency assessment. They also normally ask a consultant to write their procedures or purchase a ready-made set of pre-written policies. Such packages may not reflect what actually happens. Those who perform activities must play a role in drafting or reviewing the policies. So the SOP must reflect what you do and not what is your ultimate aim. It must be an actual living document. The second part would be resource management. Top management must provide resources necessary to both meet QMS requirements and continually improve its effectiveness, enhance customer satisfaction by meeting customer requirements. Managing resources means securing enough people and ensuring their competence, awareness, and training to meet these goals. Also provide right equipment, suitable infrastructure, work environment, and supplies for personnel to do their job effectively. Personnel management must also select personnel who are competent based on education, skills, and experience, determine criteria for competence, provide appropriate training wherever required, and evaluate the effectiveness of training. Personnel understand why their competence is important to meet quality objectives, and organization must provide evidence of personal competence by maintaining records of their education, training, skills, experience, and assessment. Accommodation and environment condition must be suitable for work environment, including workplace, equipment, and supplies. And nowadays, without IT, you cannot work well. So supporting service like uninterrupted information technology must be also available. Laboratory equipment, all equipment required for providing services, process for selecting equipment must be in place, including process for evaluating suppliers. Records are maintained of these evaluations, on-site inspection, external evaluation, reviewing quality control records, and supplies need not be ISO registered or accredited. Service realization is the process flow for delivery of service, and great attention needs to be paid to pre-analytical, analytical, and post-analytical, as well as the pre-analytical and post-analytical area. Plan a workflow so everyone understands how their task relates to others. Documenting all linked activities in the process map will help all staff understand the wider picture. Most errors occur in pre-analytical area, and Dr. Aditi will discuss more in detail about these, but paying attention to analytical area, the pre-analytical, analytical, and post-analytical must be must be paid attention to, and SOPs should be followed for each step. Then we should measure and analyze and improve, checking the process. ISO 15189 provides ideal tool to implement continual improvement. It provides, it uses quality indicators, reviews non-conformities, internal and external quality audits, and regular management. These would be the tools to see where is how much is quality management system being implemented. The focus of QMS is on continual improvement, and that can be done by use of quality indicators. Depending on organization strategic will decide what is important, what metrics to measure, what target to strive for. A quality indicator is a measurement and analysis to address how well the laboratory meets its customer needs. In this, the turnaround time and the need for repeat samples are always measured. It is critical to gather and use reliable data. Management of non-conformities defined as non-fulfillment of a requirement. An audit team should report any occurrence to the management. Internal and external quality audits should take place at regular interval, and regular management review of the QMS would take place, which gives an opportunity to top management to review the policies and records, results in action plan for improvement, leads to change in strategy planned by quality manager, conducted using document process and detailed procedures and templates so that management review are consistent year to year. So the laboratory path of workflow is mentioned in detail in various sections of ISO 15189. And when you have special session on the quality systems essential, the 12 quality system essentials, each one of them will be dealt in detail. Finally, it's the cost of quality. There are three types of checks that are there. One is preventive check, to set things in place so that mistakes do not occur. That is the cost, or that is the process for preventive check. Then once work has been done, you check for mistakes by appraisal. Here, if you find mistakes, you hold back the reports. But this is costlier since work has already been done, resources has already been committed, and so there will be loss in case reports are held at appraisal. And finally, if there is failure which is brought to the notice either internally or after it reaches the patient, then that is the worst that can happen. So your aim should be to prevent all mistakes during the prevention stage. If it goes to appraisal state, some amount is lost. But finally, if it reaches the patient, then there will be loss of not only funds, but also of reputation. And the cost of prevention is, if it is $1, appraisal will be 10 times costly, and failure is 100 times costlier. So it is better to invest in prevention than to plan to handle failure. Finally, I would like to end by saying that Phil Crosby said that quality is free. What costs is the unquality things that we do, where we repeat tests, revise results, replace samples, and redo. All that costs money and time, and for which we will not get paid. So doing the right thing right, first time, and each time is the most effective way of running a laboratory. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Ratan. So brilliantly presented, very well presented, and very crisp message. I think finally what we pay for is not for quality is free. This is something no one has said before. Quality is free. It is the unquality that needs correction. Like they said, tip of the iceberg. You can see the tip of the iceberg, but at the bottom, there are so many other losses if you fail quality. And one big loss can be loss of credibility. Your hospital name, your lab name can also be at stake. I think it was really a brilliant presentation, Dr. Ratan. And before we get into questions, I will now ask Dr. C or Dr. Chermiraj to come in with his master riddle. So, Dr. C, are you ready?
Yeah, Lakshmi.
Yes. So, you're sharing or I'm sharing? Who is sharing?
Okay, I will share that.
Okay.
Okay, just a minute. Yeah, Rashma, can you give me the sharing rights?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just
So, as Dr. Ratan said, when somebody unmutes, you can hear all their side conversations. So, I can hear somebody's side conversation. Last time there was a kid also crying.
okay.
Yes, Dr. C. Yeah.
Yeah, 1 minute. I'm just.
So if you all have paid attention to whatever Dr. Ratan said, you will crack the answers now, okay? So be attentive and be ready. Yes, Dr. C, we are waiting.
Yeah. Yeah, there are. Okay, so is my screen visible?
No, sir.
Is it visible now?
Set showing
No, sir.
share content. Now, yes, we can.
No, it's
Yeah.
Okay. So what you are seeing in the picture? Can you able to give your answer? You can unmute and give your answer.
Sir, McDonald.
See from here.
McDonald's.
Yeah, or you can put it in the chat box.
Restaurants.
It is a restaurant, okay? What else? Linked with the quality. Hope everybody had your evening snacks. Neat maintenance. Okay, good. What else? MACD, yeah. Quality, yes. What is that? Quality means what? Good ambience, neat and clean, attractive. Okay. So Dr. Ratan had
Customer
clearly
service.
mentioned that what is quality? So yes, there is a proper SOP. So they are fulfilling the customer expectations. Very good. So it is a well-organized structure and management. If you see anywhere you go to the subway, every places it will have the uniformity. Similarly, if you go to MACD, you will have the consistency. Any joint you can go there. And why people prefer this? Because linked with the customer expectations, they fulfill the customer expectations. Because customer perception is a very important key factor. What customer perceive when they are coming to your lab or hospital, what is the things they perceive? What is the expectations? Are we fulfilling that expectations? When we are able to achieve that customer expectations, that's the things you are achieved your quality. Satisfy the basic customer needs. Because if there is a perception is not there, or if you are not fulfilling the customer expectations, so any product it will fail. Because McDonald's or Subway is successful in that, because they understand that what is the customer expectation, who is my target customer. For example, MD, McDonald. A family with children, they go. So what is the children's expectations? Have a good treat with the good snacks, and there should be a fun. So they maintain the ambience like that. A fun place to be for the children. It's not only for the family with the children. The working community who are on the move. So what is their expectations? The fast turnaround time. I need the service, good service within the short turnaround time. So it is fulfilling that. Similarly, teenager, so they want to hang out with the friends with the affordable price. So that also it is fulfilled by the McDonald's. It gives a great ambience. They can spend time, hang out with their friends with the affordable price. So quality is nothing but fulfilling the customer expectations. So when you are receiving your customer, what is their expectations? They want accurate results, the reliable results, the right result, which can help them for the better diagnosis. And also it is very important, the turnaround time. Am I getting my right results in the right time? When I need it, okay, I give the sample, get the report, I should go and get consultation with my clinicians. If you are able to fulfill that, then you have achieved your quality. So that is the purpose of this riddle. Hope you all agree with me. Thank you very much. Over to Lakshmi.
Thank you, Dr. C. I think, yeah, so we always give this example of McDonald's because it's universal. And, there's something about them that I really like is, their fries. Anywhere in the world you go, the fries, the way it is cut, the size, the shape is the same. So that is quality. So it is not person dependent, it is system dependent. So quality is always system dependent. No, so with that quiz and all the answers that we got from you, where you all earn brownie points, I will hand over to Dr. Aditi. And after Dr. Aditi's presentation, we can take questions for both Dr. Ratan as well as Dr. Aditi. Over to you, Dr. Aditi.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Lakshmi, for my introduction. And I would like to thank all the participants for being so active in the chat box. And good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Aditi. And firstly, I would like to thank Lakshmi for the kind introduction that she has given. And I would like to thank Ortho Clinical Diagnostic and QI team for giving me opportunity to interact with all of you during this session. So as I think as all of you are already present here, I believe that you all want to go ahead in this journey of quality. I believe that we are not taking the certificate of the quality Q School just only to paste it on our wall or put it into our certificate file. I would really like to take a promise from each one of you, each one of the participant here, to implement this quality system, implement from one small change into your laboratory, monitor it, evaluate it, and improve it. So please promise me, everyone, after this complete Q School program, we will make some small changes, some small effective changes into your laboratory, as the importance of quality of management is equal to the importance of management of quality inside your laboratory. So as Dr. Ratan sir and Lakshmi and Dr. C has already spoken much about quality. What is quality? What is quality? So in a general term, what we say that whatever customer needs that we are able to fulfill. My requirement from McDonald's is that I should get my food fast. Whenever we are very hungry, we say that we should go to McDonald's. Why? Because we know that we'll get the food very fast. So that is the tag. So similar, what is quality is fitness of purpose. So as sir has already told, now from the era of reactive quality, we are moving towards proactive quality. Proactive quality is meaning that we need to create a system. We need to create a quality processes that has no defects, that has minimal defects, and moves towards Six Sigma or Lean, those concepts which will be discussed in the next session of Q School. So why do we need quality in laboratory? We need accurate report because the era of lab medicine, the era of in fact, the whole medicine is changing. Now we are completely reliable. We are completely dependent upon the lab. The evidence-based medicine has begun, and the clinicians need the report. They need our report in a timely manner, in a reliable manner. So our report should be accurate, reliable, and timely for better diagnostic and disease management, to prevent any possibility of laboratory error, and any possible fatal consequences will result in improper diagnosis and treatment. So in a clinical laboratory, this is a time measurement thing. So we have all our tools. What tools we have in a clinical laboratory is Six Sigma, Lean, internal quality control, external quality assurance, statistics. All these things will ultimately help in giving us the accurate and timely and complete report to the patient, to ensure the reliability of the test results, to give the best patient care. Ultimately, what we are doing in the laboratory is the patient care. The clinicians, the whole community of medicine is dependent now upon the report of the laboratory. So we are serving the patients. So behind every tube, behind every blood sample, behind any other sample, just imagine that there is a patient who is ill, who is seeking your help. So what is quality control and what is quality assurance? The quality control is the process of detecting errors, and quality assurance is the system of procedures in place to avoid errors. So quality control is basically an operational technique in which we find out what is the error. What is the error? What is quality assurance? Quality assurance includes the planned and systematic activities that are required to fulfill requirements. So what does quality assurance includes? It is a proactive process. It will include your staff functioning. It will include your audit process. It will include your training. So that is the difference between the quality control and quality assurance. So what will happen if we have an unreliable performance? If we have an unreliable performance in the laboratory, this is a laboratory person who is having a huge burden nowadays in the era of COVID. I think each one of you, each one of the laboratory person here must agree with me that the role of the laboratory has become really very important. And even if we give one wrong report, it will lead in patient misdiagnosis, delays in treatment, and increased cost. For example, a small calibration bias in the cholesterol, 1% positive bias in the calibration will result in 5% increased cholesterol and 5% increased treatment cost. And if this 1% positive bias increased to 3%, then it will increase in 15% of the patients. So in the laboratory medicine, we have a huge burden on our shoulders, and we should remember them. So what is the classification? Is the pre-analytical errors, that is the errors before the sample reaches the laboratory, analytical errors, that are errors occurring during the analysis of the samples, and post-analytical are the errors occurring after the analysis. So I will just quickly jump on to the analytical errors. Analytical errors can happen in the laboratory while barcoding or encoding the sample, centrifugation, your refrigeration, the way the samples are stored in the refrigeration, then your glassware pipettes are not calibrated, they are contaminated, then your reagents are not kept properly, your reagents, lot-to-lot verification is not done, your reagents are badly maintained in the fridges, then in the application part, you are not using properly instrument settings. Then in the instrument part, if there is lack of maintenance, you have worn tubings, optics, cuvettes, probes. So all these factors leads to the analytical errors in the laboratory. And the most important part is the human factor. The lack of training of the manpower can also lead to the analytical errors in the laboratory. So there are 3 M's: the man, the material, the method. The 3 M's which are required in any system is the man, the material, and the method. And the technician, the technician who is working in the laboratory is the backbone of the laboratory, and the training of that manpower is important. So between every test result and diagnosis, there is a gap. We have to narrow down that gap. And by narrowing that gap, we would know what is a true test. How do we know that the result of glucose that I am giving from my laboratory, 150 mg per dl, is a true test? So there, as Sir has already explained, Dr. Radan has already explained about the guidelines from ISO 15189 2012. What is accuracy? What is accuracy? Accuracy means the result, how correct your result is. So how correct your result we can give to the patient. If I am saying if my result is 150 mg per dl for glucose, how true that result is, how close it is to the true value is known as your accuracy. And what is precision? The precision is the repeatability. If I repeat my glucose investigation, glucose test 10 times, then what is the repeatability? What is the reproducibility of my results is known as precision. If I repeat my test 10 times, what will be the fluctuation? How will be my value spread? That is known as the precision. So in any laboratory, what do we need? Do we need only accurate reports, or do we need precise reports, or do we need both? So in any clinical laboratory, we need a report which is accurate and precise. Here the report is precise. We are getting the repeated values same every time when we are repeating the test, but it is not coming into the center of the dart, which shows that my results are not accurate. Here the results are imprecise. So what do we need? That our results should be accurate and precise. Precise does not mean that it can be biased. So we need both accuracy and precision inside the laboratory. What is specificity? The specificity is the ability of the method to measure solely the component of the interest. So a lack of specificity will affect the accuracy, like falsely elevated hormones and drugs that we measure into our laboratory. So how specific is the method? If suppose we want to measure a TSH, how specific, what is the specificity of the method? What is the specificity of the reagent that I'm using into my laboratory? And then what is sensitivity? Is sensitivity is the ability to detect smallest amount of the measured component. So this sensitivity will affect both your precision and accuracy. Now let us come to the few definitions of quality control in medical laboratory. So what is quality control? Quality control is a statistical process in which we see whether the results or whether the patient result that we produce, we will ensure that those medical decisions or those medical reports we are able to give with the confidence. So to have this complete QC, we must again accuracy and precision. These two components are required. For these two components, for these QC inside the laboratory, there are two concepts which are known as internal quality control, that is measuring the daily performance of your laboratory, daily how your results are precise, how your results are accurate, that is known as internal quality control. And external quality control is your comparison of your performance to the other laboratories. If suppose I am giving a glucose of 100 mg per dl, what other my peer laboratory is giving, that is known as external quality assurance. We will take one by one then. So what is internal quality control? Internal quality control are that we are running a sample of known concentration. So what will that do? When we know a value of that control sample, when we are running on the equipment, it will help us to monitor the precision of an assay and the analyzer. So when we are running a QC material daily, we know the internal quality control, we know the range of that QC material. So what are the options available in the market? Those are the unassayed and the assayed. Unassayed is the cheaper option, but here the laboratory will not get any range. The laboratory has to establish its own ranges through series of experiments inside the laboratory. And the assayed serum or the assays control material is that comes with the manufacturer. There are various manufacturers which provide the control materials. They come up with predetermined or predefined targets and ranges. So how do we choose a control material? So the control material, there are various options available in the market. So the various ranges are available, like a normal control sample, a high control sample, and a low control sample. So it is always advisable to cover the points for which a medical decision is made. So always choose a control material for which a medical decision, the borderline, the cutoffs, where the high and the low will change a patient diagnosis and treatment. Choose that control material. After getting a control material, you reconstitute these control materials into your laboratory. At the same time, it is very important to aliquot your control material. You have to aliquot the control material by labeling it, by mentioning the date at which this control material was aliquoted, and then storing it at a proper temperature is very essential. Now, how many times do we want to run a control into a laboratory? In the Indian scenario, we follow the regulatory guidelines of NABL. What does it say is that if your lab is working 24/7, then run 2 levels of control in the peak hours. Peak hours means when your workload, when your sample size is highest, and subsequently, and then later on, 1 level of QC every 8 hours to monitor your performance throughout 24/7. And if your laboratory is not 24/7, then whenever you are receiving the samples in the laboratory, you should run minimum 2 levels of QC. Apart from this, when can we run the QC? Suppose if there is a failure in your QC, then you need to rerun your QC. When a kit lot number is changed, when a lot number of the kit is changed, then it is very essential to monitor the performance of the kit. We need to run our QC material. After any calibration, we need to run our QCs. And if we get any highly abnormal, grossly abnormal report, it is always advised to run a QC and see. So this internal quality control will help us in monitoring our precision and accuracy. Now, what is acceptable? Suppose if I have run a sodium QC control material and I have a target value of 140. So when I run it on 3 subsequent days, I get a value of 139, 140 and 141. So this is acceptable. But if I get a value of 120, 160 and 180, is it acceptable? Everyone is listening to me. Is it acceptable? No,
No,
it
ma'am.
is not. It
No,
is
ma'am.
not
No, ma'am.
acceptable. It is unacceptable. So what needs to be done inside the laboratory is that we need to establish a range. A range of acceptable values has to be established into the laboratory. So for establishing that range, what one needs to do is the manufacturer has defined its predetermined target ranges, right? But the atmosphere, the laboratory conditions, the environmental conditions, the refrigerator, the transportation of the QC material, the technologist who is working into your laboratory, the training of that. So all these factors give rise to a variability into the laboratory. So for that, it is very essential to establish the lab's own mean and SD. So how can a lab establish its own mean and SD? The laboratory shall derive its own mean and SD using minimum of 20 data points to plot an LJ chart, right? So what are the steps? Obtain your QC material, run your QC material 20 times, calculate the mean and standard deviations. So how will you calculate your mean? Mean will be your total number of the measurement, sum of all the glucose values that you have obtained on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 3, divided by the number of total measurements. So it is always advisable for the lab to establish your own lab mean instead of using manufacturer lab mean. So when you will plot these mean values onto a curve, it comes as a Gaussian curves. Values, all the values will randomly fall within this Gaussian curve. So what is precision? When your values are falling into this Gaussian curve, how close your values are coming to each other, that concept we have already understood of precision. So how dispersed your values are there into this Gaussian curves will be measured by using a formula of standard deviation. So the standard deviation is square root of your sum of each measurements minus by the average of each measurements divided by n minus 1 into the square root. So this standard deviation formula, calculation of mean formula, you don't need something like a paper, pen, calculator. Now all these things can be plotted into a simple Excel sheet. So this was the standard deviation, which is how dispersed your values are. Now, suppose if this is a mean result of 100, standard deviation is 1, and your number of results is 100. So what will happen in one standard deviations, your value, 68% of your values will fall within one standard deviation. And in two standard deviations, 95% values will fall randomly about a mean value in two standard deviations. Now let me ask you a question. By seeing this sodium and potassium standard deviation, what do you think? Which assay is more precise? The one which are lower standard deviation or one with a more higher standard deviation? Anyone? So please, anyone can.
Both
Ma'am,
are
potential.
same.
Let us see. So now we will move to the concept of coefficient of variation. So what does coefficient of variation means? Coefficient of variation, it takes into consideration the overall magnitude of the overall results. So here your potassium CV was standard deviation was 0.1 divided by 5 into 100. So your CV percentage came 2. For sodium, the CV percentage came as 1.4. So what does it tell us? That sodium, the standard deviation was higher than potassium, but it is a better performing assay than the potassium. So what does CV do? CV in the standard deviation, it is not able to measure overall magnitude of the result. And by using coefficient of variation, we can compare the performance of two different analytes also. So in the laboratory, when we have performed our internal quality control, then we need to monitor. The most important part of the ISO 15189 standards or any quality process is that first you design your process, you improve upon that process, then monitor and then evaluate yourself. So how do we do that? By your LJ charts. So what are LG charts? LG charts are the visual representation of the daily quality control values, and we plot those quality control values up to plus and minus 3 standard deviations. So it helps us in monitoring the overall precision and accuracy in the long term. How our long-term accuracy and precision is going inside the laboratory. So this is an example of a typical LG chart where there is a mean value, then we have plus 1 SD, 2 SD, and 3 SD. So this LG chart is used worldwide for monitoring your QCs. So now there are various Westgard rules which has been suggested and which are being followed in all the clinical laboratories who are following good lab practices. So what are these Westgard rules? So first is warning rule, that is 1-2S rule. What does 1-2S rule means? This is your mean value. This is 1 standard deviation. This is 2 standard deviation. This is 3 standard deviation. So when your one value comes outside 2 standard deviation, either plus side or minus side, any one of the side, this is known as 1-2S rule. And this 1-2S rule is a warning rule. What does it tells us? That please carefully look into your systems, monitor the performance of this analyte. But now comes the next another rule, that is 1-3S rule. Here what has happened? This is mean. This is 1 standard deviation. This is 2 standard deviation. This is 3 standard deviation. When one value of the control mean has fall outside 1-3S, outside 3 standard deviation, either plus 3 SD or minus 3 SD, it is known as 1-3S rule. And here it is a rejection rule. At this point of time, you should stop your patient samples and look into your system for the detection of error or for the finding of the root cause analysis and take a corrective action. What is 2-2S rule? 2-2S rule means when your 2 consecutive control values exceed the same plus 2 SD or minus 2 SD, it is known as 2-2S rule. So here you see again the mean value plus 1, plus 2, plus 3. So two consecutive control measurements have fallen outside 2 SD. It is known as 2-2S rule, and it is again a rejection rule and a corrective action is required. What is R4S? R4S means plus 2 SD minus 2 SD. So 2 plus 2, 4. So one value of the QC material is 2S, another is 2S. So the difference between 2 plus 2 is 4. So again, this is a rejection. What is 4-1S? 4-1S is when your 4 consecutive control values come on the same side within plus 1 SD on same side of the mean is known as 4-1S rule. What is 10x rule? 10x rule is when the 10 consecutive control values come on one side of the mean. It can be 1 SD, 2 SD, but 10 values are falling on one side of the mean. It means that your assay is somehow biased. So this is known as a 10x rule, and again here some action has to be taken. So these are the various Westgard rules, and in our laboratory we can design what combination of rules we want to use. When we use a combination of rules in the laboratory, it helps in higher detection rate. So now here is an example. I would every one of you like to please pay attention to these graphs. So I have taken few examples. So this is a typical LJ plot. Here the control value is 140. This is mean. 1 SD is 141, 2 SD minus 2 SD. So this is a perfect control chart, right? Now let us take the second example. In the second example, here again, what you will see, that was the mean SD. Again, the values are plotted for another month, and you will see that all the values are falling on both the sides of the mean, and the graph is perfectly okay. Now let us take another example. So now let us, here what do you understand? Here what do you understand, everyone? Here what we are seeing is for the few control measurements, the precision, the accuracy is okay. But in the last few, we are seeing a positive bias happening into the system. So this is how you have to monitor your LG charts. Now let us take another example. Here what is happening? Here what is happening is when we have plotted our control measurements, we see that all the values are falling on one side of the mean. So it is showing that it is a positive bias. Now let us take another example. What is this? A downward trend. It means there is some error in the system. Some root cause analysis has, this is a downward trend, right? Now let us take another example. Here, can anyone tell me here what is happening? In the first few control measurements, there is no precision inside the laboratory. There is no precision. They have taken some action and thereafter they are getting a precise and the accurate results. Correct? Now let us take another example. I just wanted to show you these examples because these are the real examples that happen inside a laboratory. Now here, what is this? At one point of time, for 3 control measurements, I'm getting this. For another 3 control measurements, it means that it can be due to operator training also. There might be one technician who is performing here. There might be another technician who is performing here. So we really need to look into our system why this is happening. So these Westgard rules helps us in analyzing that what is the error and how we can monitor and take a corrective action. So what is the flow chart? When we are doing a control data, if there is one point outside 2SD, then we don't need to take any corrective action. We just need to keep our systems under monitoring and we can report a patient result. If there is one point outside 3SD, then yes, we have to reject the run. If there are 2S rules, then again, yes, we have to reject the run and take a corrective action. If there is R4S rule, then yes, again, we have to reject the run and take the corrective action. If there is 4-1S rule, then again, yes, we have to reject the run and take a corrective action. And if there is a 10X rule, then yes, again, we have to take a corrective action. And after taking a corrective action only, then we can report the patient result. So how will you review your quality control data? Now, if there is an outlier, then what will you do? You will have to find out the root cause, why that outlier has come. In the laboratory, I have seen the technicians avoid seeing the LJ graphs. So before deciding any corrective action to be taken, please see your LJ charts. Your LJ charts give you a lot of information that what corrective action has to be taken. Examine your environmental conditions. If required, then prepare a new control material. Follow the manufacturer troubleshooting guidelines. Contact the manufacturers if required, and if necessary, then recalibrate your parameter. At the end
Sorry
of the
to
month,
interrupt you, ma'am.
yeah.
I have 7 more minutes for the presentation.
Okay, thank you. At the end of this thing, at the end of the month, you need to monitor your CV percentage. You need to monthly plot your CV percentage and see whether you are meeting your target goals, whether these CV percentage are within target goals or not. Now let us move to the external quality assessment. External quality assessment is inter-laboratory, comparing my results with the another laboratory. So there are various PT providers. There are various PT providers who provide the unknown sample. You don't know what is the concentration of this sample, and they provide those samples to your lab. You have to assess those samples, submit your results to the PT provider, and receive your PT report and take the corrective actions. It is always advisable to treat a PT program, to treat a PT sample, that is proficiency test, or the EQA sample in the same manner as a patient sample. It is not required to give that EQA sample a special treatment, like you are doing the calibration, you are asking a particular technologist only to perform the assay. So that is not required. Treat your EQA sample as a patient sample, and there should be no discussion between the laboratories asking your results and interchanging. It is like an exam. So once you get that EQA program, you perform that essay, then if there is an outlier in the EQAS program, then a corrective action is required. So whatever corrective actions you are taking or whatever your PT results are, that will ultimately help you in the improvement of your laboratory. Then how should you read your EQAS report? So if there is a Z score and your laboratory is achieving a poor Z score, then ideally it is advisable that you should have a proper EQAS evaluation protocol. And this EQAS evaluation protocol you should follow in case of any outlier is there. It will help you for your bias estimates, relative imprecision estimates, and long-term behavior of your equipment. So you can check for all these points like transcription errors, your method codification errors, errors related to the equipment, errors relating to the inappropriate peer group. So all these things can be incorporated in your EQAS evaluation form. At the end, please look into your summary charges, a summary chart of your EQAS report, challenge yourself with the questions and make the informed decisions. So there is a difference between IQC and EQAS. IQC is your internal term exam that happens in the college, and EQAS is the external exam that happens in the university where you don't know nothing. So both IQC and EQAS are important practices in the laboratory. So how much error you can accept into your laboratory, or how much risk is too much into your laboratory, is always reflected by your document. Do what you write and write what you are doing. Otherwise, your world will change upside down and you will not realize into your laboratory. IQC and EQAS are complementary activity to each other. Both activities are required in any clinical laboratory, and it is not the responsibility only of a lab technologist or a lab supervisor or a lab director. It is a responsibility of complete lab personnel as a whole. So take home messages: quality cost is more, but poor quality costs the most. And in the end, I would just like to say that quality is never an accident. It always the result of high intention, sincere effort, intelligent direction, and skillful execution. It may represent the wise choice of many alternatives. In healthcare, we have wasted a few billions by playing with paper, scissors, rock. Now we need to take an informed decisions. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Aditi. Again, very well done. I think a lot of questions that people would have on LJ, CV, SD, we can take up all that. So yes, folks, please shoot your questions. Both Dr. Ratan and Dr. Aditi are available, and you can start asking your questions. Either type it in the chat box or you can ask. Dr. C, are you there? Okay. Yeah, questions, please.
Yeah. Good evening. So there was a question there. As per NABL 112, we should run QC every 8 hours. But as ma'am mentioned that for rare test, mainly immunoassay, can we run 2-level QC on the day of sample run?
Yeah.
But NABL assessors are not accepting this QC plan.
So I would just like to tell you the NABL 112 guidelines. What does it say? The latest guidelines. What does it say? That if you are a 24/7 laboratory, run your 2 levels of QC when your workload is maximum, right? When your workload is highest, when you're receiving maximum number of samples. And then after that, every 8 hours, you need to run your 1 level of QC. That is for a lab which is running 24/7. But if suppose your lab is not running 24/7, then what you can do is, like suppose if you get that test into your laboratory, even if there is a 1 single sample, please run 2 levels of QC.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. So the next question is, can you explain CV, coefficient of variation?
I think I have already explained the question into my presentation. Why do we need CV? As I told you with an example of standard deviation of sodium and potassium. The CV does not tell, the standard deviation does not tell us about the magnitude of the result. If suppose there are any analytes for which the concentration is high, your SD will come high. For that, in situation to compare the performance of the analytes, it is very important to calculate the CV percentage. And the CV percentage formula is SD by mean into 100. So what I would just suggest is that we need to calculate the CV percentage on the monthly basis into our laboratory, and then we need to analyze this CV percentage based upon our target goals. What is the target goal? What is the QC goal of my laboratory? And the QC goal of every laboratory should be predetermined. And according to that, my QC goal, my QC target, I should monitor my CV percentage on monthly basis. And if any particular month, if my CV percentage is high, then we really need to look into our systems and check whether my CV percentages are correct or not, and I need to take a corrective action.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. There is another question. See, we have to, like, when we have to establish our lab mean, we have to wait for at least a month, 20 values before
Yes.
putting QC material into use. Is it practical?
Yeah, see, there are two approaches to this thing. Either what you can do is the you can run when your old QC control lot is getting over. At that same point of time, you can run your new control lot in parallel and do the comparison and generate your data points. But the second approach is that for the first 20 data points, you can use your manufacturer guidelines, your manufacturer target ranges, and then after 20 data points, you can establish your lab mean and lab SD. And again, it is advisable that please monitor your lab mean and lab SD later on also. How is your lab performing? Please compare your target ranges, your target mean and SD with your peer group mean and SD, and then evaluate and see that how is your performance going on.
Yeah, it's a right way. Also, you can, otherwise, if it is the first time you are doing it, maybe you can do like a initial two value, take the mean of that two values as a preliminary mean, keep that with the manufacturer's ST and follow that for 20 days. After 20 runs, then you can re-establish your lab mean. That will be practical approach that. Okay, so another question it was there. How should we inter-laboratory values? Is there any statistical method available for comparing the inter-laboratory values? How much difference is acceptable?
See, inter-laboratory values by performing the EQUAS program or the proficiency testing, you are already comparing your inter-lab values. Your peer comparison is already happening, right? So if you are participating in any of the EQUAS or the PT programs, then you are already performing, you are already comparing your values with another peer laboratory. So I don't think if you are doing the EQUAS program, you are participating in the EQUAS program, then any other set of ILC is not required.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So, there is another question. Dr. Ratan, can any minimum criteria for participating in the PT program? Is there any minimum criteria or anything like that?
The aim is that every test that you do, you should participate in quality assurance so that you know how you handle unknown samples.
Okay.
So in that context, Dr. C, I'll ask one more question to Dr. Ratan. What is peer group, you know? So I think you can explain that, Dr. Ratan.
See, like in accreditation, we serve. We have to have undergo training on understanding the requirement for ISO 15189. Then we go as assessors to other person's lab and assess them for NABL. And then my peers, that means my equals, come to my lab and assess my lab. So peer group means that we are doing the function as equals, not as superiors or inferiors. We are all equals, provided we are using the same yardsticks for measurement.
Yeah, thank you, doctor. So there is another question. So when you are running from lot to lot changes, so how do you validate that when there is a moving from one lot to other lot? So how many samples we have to run to see that lot to lot consistency? Is there any guidelines for that?
See, ideally, when we are having a lot-to-lot verification, when one reagent lot is getting changed to another reagent lot, it is always advisable to do a lot-to-lot verification. Now, in lot-to-lot verification, when you are changing a new reagent lot, first, what is it is advisable? It is advisable to run your QC material. So when you run your QC and you have normal, high, and low QC ranges, you have already compared yourself. But since the QC sample matrix is different from the patient sample matrix, then it is advisable to run a patient sample also, which you have run on the previous lot, run it on the new lot. And it is always advisable to run a normal and an abnormal sample that will give you a clear picture if there is any bias at any of the concentrations.
I think that was a right this one. So another question, interesting, is specificity and accuracy, is it same?
Specificity is, yes, specificity is like something of a specific concentration that we want to measure. But sensitivity also affects the accuracy. Sensitivity will affect the accuracy because again the sensitivity is to able to detect that small amount, even the smallest of the amount into that sample. So specificity is the specific thing. So both specificity and sensitivity will affect the accuracy and the precision of the laboratory.
Yeah, I think accuracy, you can say that it is close to the expected value or the true value. So that is considered as accuracy. So it can be impacted, like Dr. Aditi mentioned, that sensitivity as well as the specificity, it's very important to achieve your accuracy. So specificity means, okay, am I having any cross reactivity? Am I detecting only the required material like TSH I am measuring? Am I measuring only TSH or the closely related other hormones like FSH or anything else is also, is it adding and then affecting my accuracy? So both the sensitivity and what is the minimum detection limit I am detecting it? Am I able to detect accurately the low concentration or not? So both sensitivity and specificity play a major role in achieving the accuracy or to get the value close to the true value. So also that interesting question. So how to do inter-instruments comparative study that?
Yeah, inter-instrument comparison. See, inter-instrument comparison is required into your laboratory. If suppose there are 3 equipments into your laboratory, and if suppose today I am giving you my blood sample to run for glucose. So today, if you have run on A equipment, and after 1 month I come, and if you perform my test on B equipment, so the inter-instrument comparability is required. So to do that inter-instrument comparison, what it is advisable that you have to use statistically significant result and statistically significant number of samples for the comparison on the equipment, and try to cover all the ranges. Like if you are doing an inter-instrument comparison between the three equipments of glucose, then what you need to do is you need to select the normal samples, you need to select the abnormal high glucose samples also, and then do a proper statistical analysis, either using a bland animal curve, regression analysis, and do a proper analysis, and then derive upon the conclusion that whether your both the equipments are harmonized or not.
Okay. So very nice. There is a one question. So for what is the acceptable criteria for the CV percentage? Especially biochemistry parameters, we can have within 5% of CV. For immunology parameters, what should be the acceptable CV percentage? Is there any general
See,
limit is there?
there are various guidelines which have been provided by RECOS guidelines, RCPA guidelines. So there are various guidelines, there are various publications who have provided us the CV percentage criteria. So this is again what the target goal that you want to set in your laboratory. So you cannot blindly say that for my PSA, I can use a CV percentage of 20%. No. Then what you will do, you will go and look into the various guidelines provided by RECOS, RCPA, biological variation guidelines, and then decide your quality goals inside the laboratory, and then monitor your CV percentage, monthly CV percentage monitoring, both based on these target quality goals.
Yeah, I think that is a right approach. So for CV percentage, because CV is nothing but the imprecision. So what is my imprecision goal for each analyte? So which can be got, you can get it from your various guidelines. The total allowable error, from there also you can able to calculate it, or along with the total allowable error, each guidelines they will give what is the imprecision limit for each analyte.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
In our lab, we are having two types of cell counters. One is 5-part and another one is 3-part. In both, we are doing IQC and EQUAS also. And when we are running the EQUAS, we are analyzing the EQUAS. That 5-part differential counter, it's giving a good values, but the 3-part is not giving as a it's not a good value. But when we are comparing with the samples, the same samples of a patient, it's giving almost the same value. It's because of what is the reason for that?
See, in this scenario, what I would just suggest is that you have two different equipment. One is 5-part and another one is 3-part equipment analyzer, right? So you are telling the EQUAS performance in both the equipments is different. In one EQUAS, you are getting a good result, and in another EQUAS report, your EQUAS report is not good, right?
Yeah.
So in such a scenario, what would I would just like to go a stepwise approach. What is a stepwise approach is, first you need to do a peer comparison. So in the 3-part equipment, what you are using, please go and check the configuration of the EQUAS that you have done while selecting the EQUAS program, right? What is your methodology? What is your equipment? Please go and check that. After that, follow a step-by approach. How is your internal quality control going on? How is your peer group comparison going on? How is there any calibration bias which is there? Was the maintenance of your equipment properly done? Is it just because of one particular event like last PM, after this, like after the last PM has happened, only then this problem has arisen? So analyze in a step-by-step manner. And even then, if you get this thing, then what you can do is, for this 3-part analyzer, you can send one inter-lab comparison to another laboratory using the same equipment. same equipment, send one sample there, compare your results and see what has to be done. I think you will be able to find your answer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a
Doctor,
question to Dr. Ashok Ratan. Doctor, if we are using Vitec 2 for ABSC in microbiology, how often is IQC needed? If the ABSC number is about 16 to 20 per day, is it required to include ATCC every day, or can we do 20 consecutive IQC to see the accuracy and then shift to a week or so?
I think CLSI guideline gives how frequently you need to do sensitivity testing. But of course, once you're doing automated systems, then once you have established that, then you can do less frequently. They don't change too much. So depending on how well it's matching, then you can decrease your frequency.
Thank you, doctor.
so Dr. C, last question.
Yeah, okay. Because all are almost a similar type of this one, which we can, because the QC tools, maybe we can take that. So what are the different QC tools?
So what are the different QC tools? So there are various QC tools inside the laboratory that I have already explained you in my presentation, is like your representation of your QC data, right? So accuracy, precision, you are representing your QC data in terms of your LJ charts. Then the other things by which you can monitor the QC into your laboratory are your Six Sigma, is your EQUAS, is your internal quality control, is your statistical analysis that you are doing inside your laboratory. What are the good clinical practices that you are following inside your laboratory?
Yeah. So the QC tools can be like your IQC data in terms of LJ chart, your EQUAS performance. Maybe you can calculate in terms of Six Sigma. So various ways you can able to show that. So the final questions. So to Dr. Ashok Ratan, what is measurement of uncertainty? Do we need to calculate the measurement of uncertainty for each analyte?
I think Dr. Aditi is highly qualified for that. That's a biochemistry question.
Okay.
No, thank you so much, sir, for that. So, like measurement of uncertainty, I think Lakshmi, you should also have one of your topic in Q School. It should be measurement of uncertainty. Like whatever modules that you are conducting, measurement of uncertainty, it's itself a 1 hour presentation minimum that we can talk about. So, like measurement of uncertainty in a very short form, if I'll explain you, what is the uncertainty that is lying into your result? If you are giving a glucose value of 100, then the glucose value of 100 is not exactly 100 because there is uncertainty that is associated with that sample. What can be the uncertainty? Uncertainty that can be, might be the sample was not properly transported into your laboratory. The reagents were not properly transported to your laboratory. Uncertainty in how you have stored the reagents into your system. The uncertainty in the quality measurements into your system, your internal quality control. The uncertainty in the pipetting. So all these uncertainty come into the result that you are reporting from your laboratory. To get that uncertainty, how much uncertainty is associated with that measurement is known as measurement of uncertainty. And in the laboratory, this uncertainty, this imprecision is what we get through our standard deviations and CV percentage. So the uncertainty, the measurement of uncertainty is itself a huge topic to explain. It itself is a huge presentation of minimum half an hour to 1 hour to give. So I have explained you in a simple language, and Lakshmi, please include this measurement of uncertainty in your Q School program.
Yeah. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Doctor.
Dr. C. Thank you so much. I think this is Rana. Let me just supplement what Dr. Aditi mentioned about
Okay.
measurement uncertainty in another she explained very well, but just to further elaborate on it for the audience, see, measurement uncertainty, as Dr. Aditi mentioned, has two components. One is type A and type B. Type B is basically is the most important contribution to measurement uncertainty, which comes from your percent CV, like repeatability, reproducibility, whatever always you're doing, you're calculating percent CV. So this is the major chunk in it. There are certain other components comes in. They comes in like your from calibration certificate, your thermometer, calibration of your weighing balance, calibration of your environmental conditions, or uncertainty from your reference material or from quality material, different things which you use in your testing or your analysis. So these both comes together and form the total error, you can say in crude language, is measurement uncertainty. As Dr. Aditi mentioned very well, that there is no true value. True value lies somewhere in between of a range. So like she mentioned, and it's not exactly 10, it is associated with certain uncertainty, 10 plus minus 1. And I think in medical field, it has been a gray area that ISO 15189 requires all labs to calculate measurement uncertainty. However, very few laboratories are, I think I have seen, calculating actual measurement uncertainty. Most of them are just relying on percent CV because they believe that is the most important. It contributes to more than 95 or 96% of measurement uncertainty. But 15189 requires it. And I think when you make the decisions, you call it decision rules for clinical quality and clinical care of the patient, then it plays a very, very important role. Because when your results are on the higher side, on the lower side, then you must know the measurement uncertainty to make a good decision about the patient which is receiving the care. And Dr. Aditi, we accept that what you mentioned is itself is a great topic of discussion. It's not only 1 hour, it takes whole day. I would say to really explain example questions, and I think we move on with this. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think with that we will close the today's Q&A session. So one thing is that I think the Aditi ma'am, like we can calculate the measurement of uncertainty as a bottom up approach, that whatever the CV percentage into 2 can be considered it as a measurement of uncertainty for each analyte.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so that is the simple way. Whatever the things you are having the imprecision, multiply into 2, that can be considered it as a measurement of uncertainty in your laboratory for that particular analyte. So with that, we will complete our Q&A sessions. Thank you very much, Dr. Ratan and Dr. Aditi. So over to Lashmi.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. C. I think I really thank Dr. Ashok Ratan and Dr. Aditi for taking out so much time for their brilliant preparations, and we have known both of them for such a long time. So it's really a privilege having both of you in this session. I know time is short, it's never enough. And especially for a topic like quality management system, we can go on and go on and it never ends. So Dr. Rana, do you want to summarize today's talks by Dr. Ratan and Dr. Aditi? Dr. Rana, would you like to give a summary?
Yes, thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Dr. Ashok. Really honor and privilege to have you in this Skool today. And as you explained very well about the role of ISO 15189 in setting the quality and parameters for the best treatment which we can afford to our patients, and different components which you covered under your talk, ranging from the quality of the staff, the personal training, and quality control issue, a great role to play when things related to quality comes in and standardization comes in. So thank you very much, sir, for sharing your views on that very important and in-depth analysis of the ISO 15189. And Dr. Aditi, thank you once again. I think it's really wonderful to have you in Skool. And I think this is our first time interacting here, and well covered topic, and it's a range of topics. Basically, I would say it's not just one topic. Quality management system, quality control, and people are struggling to find a appropriate EQUAS program, and particularly for smaller laboratories, it's become very difficult for them to get into the formal ICWA. So how they can approach towards this requirement of even ISO 15189. There are alternate ways of doing it using interlaboratory comparisons, doing QC, repeat testing, repeatabilities, different technicians testing, retained item testing, and so many use of reference materials and standards in ensuring the quality. So I think very well covered. And both the topics means is one topic, basically quality management system is the key of any medical laboratories to drive their quality programs and ensure high quality, ensuring patient safety, and gives confidence to not only to all stakeholders, particularly to clinicians who are treating the patient, that they can just rely on the results given by this laboratory without any second thought that yes, this is the lab giving the quality results and I can certainly rely on treating my patients. So I think that's the most significant contribution quality management has brought us to clinical area. So with this, I once again thank you, Dr. Aditi, for your a great time here in explaining the things and your support. So thank you once again, Dr. Ashokji and Madam Dr. Aditi. Thank you so much. Over
Thank
to
you so much.
Yeah.
Lakshmi.
So thanks, Dr. Ratan and Dr. Aditi. You can log off. Now we'll go for the test. So the students will be giving an exam now. So Dr. Aditi and Dr. Ratan, you can log off. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you, Dr.
Rehma?
Rana, and thank you, Dr. Ratan sir.
Yes, ma'am, I'm there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Rehma, you can put it in the chat box, the test.